This is football. I am Kevin Clark. Super Divisional Weekend. Can we do that? We couldn't call it Wildcard Weekend. Let's just call it Super Divisional Weekend. First of all, I'm going to turn my TV off. Damian Woody is distracting me. He looks great in a suit. Good job, Damian Woody. But I can't watch Sports Center right now. It is almost midnight on January 18th, and every 2025 and every NFC team has reached the conference championship game more recently than the Dallas Cowboys as of tonight. Every single team in the NFC, you can almost accidentally make it. And the Dallas Cowboys have not made the NFC Championship game since they made the Super Bowl in the mid 90s. Hmm. Um, I'm going to get to a deeper dive on that game. I'm obviously going to do winners and losers from both games. But I do want to just, before I get to the Chiefs game, I want to flick at something I just saw. I saw a bunch of receipts from Get Up where Orlovsky was saying Jayden Daniels is a better player. And Booger McFarland was saying in July that by midseason, don't be surprised if Jayden Daniels is a better player than Caleb Williams. And everybody was just killing them, mostly Bears fans, but everybody was killing them. And I understand we're always going to have defensive fans. That's just what we do. I'm a defensive fan in some regards. You're a defensive fan in some regards. But I honestly think that we need to break this hive mind of the media declaring certain picks and then the teams going along with it. I just read my kid's really into Pixar. Surprise! And I've just read this book about Pixar and by the guy who created it. And they're like this whole thing. Their whole thing at Pixar is like they have these meetings where they basically just be bluntly honest on why something isn't working. And I kind of feel like with teams, there's very little honesty, there's very little bluntness. They can be controlled so easily by the narratives, the hive minds, whatever you want to call it. And I think the last few years we've seen a bunch of people, whether that's Bryce Young, whether that's Caleb Williams. Think you saw it a little bit with Trevor Lawrence, where the franchise was just like, "Hey, this is a no brainer first overall pick." And I think it breaks down at some point, say especially with the last 2 years, where you go, "Okay, well, shouldn't C.J. Stroud against Georgia have changed the conversation? Shouldn't what Jayden Daniels did in the SEC, where he put up numbers like nobody's ever seen, shouldn't that have changed the conversation?" And it doesn't change the conversation. It's funny to me that 2 years ago, Bryce Young was the first overall pick in everybody's mock draft. CJ Stroud was second. That's what ended up happening 7 months later. I would say Jayden Daniels is a little bit different, but Drake May third, Caleb Williams first. But like these guys who are coming in to the season as number one overall picks, like we gotta find a way to detach ourselves and say, is this the eval or is this the narrative and the fans would revolt if you don't take them first overall? I think that's the decision going forward. And that's why, I mean, there was no kind of ready-made guy. People were saying Carson Beck was going to be 1-1 this year. So, like, I guess Cam Ward is different. Shedeur Sanders is different. It's it doesn't apply this year. But what I'm saying is the next time we say, hey, maybe this guy who's supposed to be the quote unquote generational prospect isn't the guy, maybe we should just take a step back and say, this is just called scouting. Nobody's hating. Um, the Chiefs Texans game was built in a lab to drive you absolutely nuts. There's an old saying like you can make stats like hostages. You can make them say whatever you want. You can make this game say whatever you want because you can talk about the referee decisions, and I'm gonna get there in a second. But you can also talk about all the sloppiness that the Texans had, special teams mistakes, cost them 10 points, missed field goal, the block, extra point, 63-yard kickoff return. Um, that was sloppy. Some of the coaching stuff, the CJ Stroud fourth down sack, where they're thinking too long about it, which I'm going to get to the opposite of that with the Commanders in a second. And then you can just say like the Chiefs played, with the exception of the opening kickoff, which ended up being fumble luck. The Chiefs played flawlessly. The Kansas City Star had this nugget that I've been thinking about for you know pretty much all night. This was the eighth straight game Kansas City's played without a turnover. That's the NFL record. And the Chiefs have changed so much since Mahomes took over as starter. So much. And they're more conservative on offense. One of the things about Mahomes was that he was able to push the ball down the field and not make mistakes, which is really, really rare. Jayden Daniels, by the way, is doing it. I got to look up the numbers, but it seems like a similar clip to Mahomes early, which is the sign of success. Is anybody can complete a 4-yard pass? Can you complete a reliably deep pass the sticks pass and still not put the ball in harm's way? That's the sign of a sticky career where it's like, okay, this guy's going to play forever and be good. Jayden Daniels can do that. But Mahomes has never put the ball in harm's way. But what they're able to do is they're able to win without even threatening to do that. Like they're not, there's no turnover worthy plays. Everything's in front of them. They're finding holes in zone. They're getting open in man. Like this is a team that's just taking care of the football, playing sound fundamental football. So that's part of it. If you're going to beat yourself, and the Texans beat themselves. Then the problem is they get helped by the refs, and then it becomes a different thing. So all right, so here's a stat that's important and rattled around tonight. Texans are the first team to outgain their opponent by 100 yards, not turn the ball over, and lose a postseason game. Previous such teams, according to ESPN Stats and Info, 49-0. 49-0. Chiefs are going to their 7th straight AFC Championship game, one short of the Patriots' record of 8. I said this many years ago. Within that, probably after 2 or 3, I said the floor. I thought I would never see a team again where the floor was the conference championship game. And then I had to, since the Patriots, and then I had to wait about a year, and I found another one. It is always going to be disappointment for time immemorial if the Chiefs don't make the conference championship game. We don't have to worry about it here. So let's do winners and losers real quick. Winners, Travis Kelce, who I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I told you this was going to happen. It doesn't matter what he does. He had his worst season statistically, 823 yards or something. Oh, well, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. He's going to find the holes in the zone. Like what did Mitchell Schwartz say? Like they will literally, not only is their chemistry so good that they know what to do once the play breaks down. Like there will be times where they're supposed to run an in-breaking route and he'll run an out-breaking route, and they'll throw in time with those kind of adjustments because they just see the game the same way. They're Hall of Fame players who are telepathic, and we've seen that before with, and part of that just builds on itself, right? Like I remember people saying this about Gronk and Brady, where it's like they have their own language because they've run the same offense together for years. So by year 8, they're able to say, "Hey, man, remember that thing we did in Cleveland 2016? Let's just do that right now. It'll be fine. Let's just do that." And like nobody else needs to know, like. And so there's that part of it, and the other part of it is like knowing when to go to things, knowing when, hey, I'm this has been open for Travis Kelce all season. I'm pulling the break in case of emergency, or break in case of emergency glass. Right, I'm going to that now. 7 of 8 targets, 117 yards and a touchdown, 62 yards after catch. We got to find out via next gen stats if Travis Kelce had the slowest broken tackle this year, because boy, he was not moving, but he knows how to go. He was not moving quickly, but he knows how to move. He knows how to move on a football field. Again, that's this whole thing. People are like, "Ooh, is he out of shape? Is he out of shape?" I don't know. See you in January when he has 117 yards and a touchdown. There is nothing in this world that is going to keep him. He's going on like these interstellar missions, right? He's like, he might be living 3 million years on another planet. He's going to come back and he's going to get the ball between a linebacker and a safety. Somebody's going to be out of position. He's going to rumble down there and he's going to set up a score, or he's going to score himself. It's going to happen. There's nothing that can stop that. It's going to happen next week too. It may not happen as many times today, but there's going to be a catch where you say, how the hell did that happen? That's the overarching thing of the Chiefs dynasty. How did the hell that happen? He has more playoff games with 100 yards, 9, than any 2 tight ends in history combined. This is via our buddy Paul Hembo. I don't know even how to put it into context that, like, people were joking, like, does he not care about the regular season? I don't think it's that. I think it's they've become an NBA team where they go, all right, well, we know exactly what we need to do. We know when to peak. We know what we need to work on. And, it was, it's, they're in their final form. Like they're in their final form. And again, I'm not going to say we never see anything like it because we have seen it. And by the way, I just told you of an example of when I was like, oh, the one never see team with the Patriots again. All right, we'll see it like after a year. So like when Kelsey hangs it up, maybe we'll see a tight end right after that. I'm just too old to say we'll never see this again. What I am saying is that this is special and it's repeatable and it's going to last longer than you think. It's going to last longer than you think. Loser, the refs. So I'm going to give you my line off the top, which is NFL games are not rigged because if NFL games were rigged, the Cowboys would win championships. They would make the NFC Championship game, which they have not done since 1996. Again, every NFC team has made it since then. So, I mean, this is also my line about the NBA is like, okay, I do think there's some NBA referee chicanery, but then why did the Spurs win a bunch of titles under David Stern? Why did the Pistons? Like why don't the Knicks make the finals anymore? What happened there? Remember David Stern famously said the best final would be Lakers versus Lakers. Okay, sometimes the Kings got screwed, but a lot of times there were other teams out of the West. So if the NFL was rigged, the Cowboys would win a bunch. But you cannot come away from this not talking about the refs a lot. And the NFL hates that. They hate that. They don't want that. I've seen the theory that like the NFL thinks any publicity is good publicity. They do not think that. They don't think that at all. And certainly, I also don't think that the NFL would rig kind of what I was saying with the Cowboys would rig it for team in Kansas City. That I know we would do with Taylor Swift conspiracies because it was before that. They were all, oh, the Kansas City refs or whatever. Like, good teams are well coached and know the rules, and the quarterback gets a lot of protection. Any star quarterback, stars get it more than anybody else. There are some exceptions, like Cam Newton didn't get protected nearly as much as he should have in his career, but we don't need to relitigate that. So that's sort of the argument as to why the things happen um, the way they do. But that's also not to say that these were good calls. I'm just explaining to you, like this happened with the Patriots all the time. And people would say, "Oh, the Patriots got all the calls." Well, the Patriots they scout referees, like they understood, they did all this stuff during that dynasty, and it was the same exact reaction. It was the same exact reaction. Having said that, there's a big problem with the perceived. First of all, I don't even perceive. I want to talk about the bad call. I really do believe the referees on the play where the Texans guys hit each other, I think they were reacting to the sound of the Texans players' helmets hitting each other, which is not a penalty. It's not a penalty to hit your own teammate. So I really do think they just missed it. And I wonder, I'm not in favor of a anything else to slow the game down, but I wonder if maybe replay assist could buzz and say, hey, no, let's go back on this. I've said the same thing. I'll say the same thing about the face mask too, which they missed in the Lions Commanders game. Is that I wonder if it's egregious. And you say, hey, you just totally missed this. Maybe they would never do it for protecting the quarterback. Maybe that's just a hard thing to legislate. But I wonder if on those sort of judgment calls, you could have a replay assist to it. I did not like the flop at all from Mahomes. I thought that was the worst thing you could do because everybody's looking at you and saying you get all the calls and then you're going to start flopping. I'm not even sure him getting the call there would have benefited him in the long run. Like he's always usually a lot smarter than that. Like I just don't know. Now everybody's going to have Surfshaw is going to be the narrative all week narrative on every talk show, on the shows I'm on, we're going to talk about it, right? And I don't think going into the conference championship game, again, the NFL wants that. So I think if there's a bang bang play or a borderline play, he's not going to get the call. And I think the flop cemented that. I think that, and this is a 1 week thing, but I'm saying with the Houston, when the two guys hit each other, that's one thing. It's all right. The refs didn't see it. You're actively flopping. I think he made a grave error for next week by doing that flop. It was a bad idea. Now they're always going to default to protecting the superstars. I thought tonight about something, a story Harold Reynolds, I think, told on Baseball Tonight. I was a big Baseball Tonight guy when I was growing up. You just had to be there. And they were saying, I think it was like Greg Maddox or somebody, painted the outside corner and ruled a strike. And Reynolds was like, come on, man, what the hell was that to the ump? And the ump just said, that's the Hall of Fame pitch. That's the Hall of Fame pitch. Hall of Famers treated differently. It's just the way it goes, especially in the NFL, where they've realized they made a let me tell you, and this is not news, this is not a conspiracy, this isn't anything. The NFL, remember mid 2010s, where the NFL is looking and Aaron Rodgers is out of the game and Scott Tolzien's in there, or you see what happens when Cooper Rush is in there instead of Dak Prescott? You see what happens to any of these guys where a guy's out for the year and you see Jake Browning instead of Joe Burrow. Those teams drop off a map. They ruin primetime games. They ruin everything. They ruin entire cities' moods. I don't think that's a conspiracy. I think you have to protect the quarterback. And I think just in the brain of every referee, if there's a quarterback who needs protecting, and that's not just Mahomes, there's about 18 of them, they're going to get calls. But when Mahomes does the flop, or when nobody's helping themselves when the Mahomes does the flop, or when the two Texans guys hit themselves and the ref reflexively throws a flag. So they're going to get the benefit of the doubt, but I think there's going to be lingering issues from this game. I don't think it's going away. I don't think you can just hand wave it and say, well, that's the way it is. The flop in particular, not smart. Bad ball. I don't think it's that big a deal. Like I saw somebody be like, this is going to be the lasting image of this game. Well, he threw a pass when he was sideways, threw a touchdown pass to Travis Kelce, his most famous teammate. Travis Kelce is one of the most famous people in the world now, and he caught a pass while Mahomes was horizontal. So my guess is that's probably going to be the lasting image. Probably not going to be Mahomes flopping. I'm just trying to make a point about the referees. Winner, Steve Spagnuolo. So, first of all, the blitzes were just so well timed. There was one early in the game where I got to watch the tape. It looked like he sent a undrafted rookie as a safety on the blitz. He didn't get home. I wouldn't have done that, but Spags, a lot more about defense than I do. Also, there were injuries to the secondary, so everybody started moving around, but he was still just as aggressive. And George Karlaftis, 8 pressures, 3 sacks, 34 pass rushes. I think that we'll talk in a second about Cliff Kingsbury and how valuable he's been. But the two things that have defined these playoffs so far are that Steve Spagnuolo is probably not going to get another head coaching job, and that Cliff Kingsbury apparently doesn't want a head coaching job because he's gonna slow play it, and he's not going to interview this week because he's not going to interview until they're out of the playoffs. He's being paid out by Arizona. He doesn't leave Caleb Williams. What did Peyton Manning say on the show last week? The inefficiency here is keeping the same system, the same structure, the same language for young quarterbacks. Jayden Daniels is going to have an unbelievable runway now, an unbelievable runway, and I think that's really special. And I think the Chiefs defense are going to benefit from that as well. Loser, Texans offensive line. CJ Stroud pressured on 51% of his dropbacks via next gen stats, sacked 8 times. Again, this is what I'm talking about where you say you can make anybody say anything you want about that game because you can talk about how bad the Chiefs offensive line was. Excuse me, the Chiefs offense. You can't say that. Although Will Anderson got home a bunch. The Texans offensive line was all day, and they were getting the crap knocked out of them. Whatever you want to focus on, you can focus on. This is a fungible thing, guys. Whatever talking point you want to make, that's why it's like go to the bar tomorrow and just start talking about this game, and people are going to have 8 different conversations. You very rarely have that. It's a very special thing. Whatever BS hobby horse you want to talk about, guess what? You get to make it. Very rare that you get that. Very rare. You get to make up whatever you want about this game. The Chiefs on the blitzes were really getting home. 8 pressures via next gen stats. 8 pressures had an unblocked rusher. And that's not offensive line. That's only 8 of his 21 pressures. Blitz on 70% of passes. This game could have gone a lot differently. They were leaving guys open in the middle of the field. There were drop passes. There were miscues. There was a sloppy game. As I said, like the stupid decision to think about fourth down for so long and then barely getting the snap off, then getting sacked. It was bad coaching. It was bad coaching. So this game, if you're angry about it, like everyone should be kind of. I guess Chiefs fans are happy about it. I saw Nick Wright making a victory lap. Congratulations to Nick. But everybody else, neutrals, Texans fans, just absolutely just boiling over with rage. Which I'm not even a neutral. Like I don't root for anything. I just see it as I don't even know what I am. An observer. I'm a noticer. I'm a noticer. All right, let's get to the other game. So here's a stat. The Lions averaged over 8 points, over 8 yards per play tonight. Very close to the record for any team in a playoff loss, which was, I'm going to give you a second. Who averaged the most yards per play in a playoff loss? Do, 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 do. Are we going to get sued if I do the Jeopardy song? The answer is Tom Brady. This is via Chase Stewart. Tom Brady's Patriots in the Eagles Super Bowl. 8.5. Lord have mercy. 8.5 yards per play and losing. I love that game. That was the only Super Bowl. I don't want to sound bratty. I'm going to craft this very carefully. That was the only Super Bowl that was enjoyable as a football product that was similar to a game in a home stadium. So there are games where I'm just Super Bowls where I'm so happy to be there. Where like the 28-3 game or the Rams Bengals game or whatever, just thrilled to be there. But Eagles fans, for whatever reason, or not for I know why, but were able to get in the stadium far more than any other franchise. And they were so loud, and that game was so back and forth. Oh, I missed that game so much. It's the only game where I was just the Super Bowl where I was just floating. Because the other ones, like the NFC Championship games, Seattle, San Francisco, those games were amazing because it was the environment and all that stuff. Like the Chiefs and Titans, like those games, those are the best games I've ever been to. The Super Bowl is very, very rarely in the conversation for games where I'm just like, this is football nirvana. But that Patriots Eagles game is in the mix there. All right. So the winner here that I'm starting with is math, because I asked someone years ago, I said, in 20 years, what are we going to look back on and say, I can't believe we did this in football? And the guy was like, most of the core tenets of football really work. Like Andy Reid is an old school guy and he wins a lot because he does hard practices and hitting and all that stuff, right? Only thing that's we're really going to look back on and say, I can't believe teams did that, is the way we approach fourth downs. This is a few years ago, 4 or 5. And maybe longer. And in the last 2 years, whether that's Dan Campbell or now a team beating Dan Campbell, we've seen teams that don't even think about kicking the field goal. Don't even think about punting on 4th and 2 near midfield. Don't even think. Now, there still are the same conservative coaches, or dinosaurs, whatever you want to call it. But the culture, to me, culture building is trusting your guys and saying, yeah, they got this. I'm not too worried about it. What do you trust more? A series of events that relies on another offense and all of this stuff? What call are they going to put in? Do they have a running quarterback? There's so many variables. Or can you get 2 yards? Can you get 3 yards? In Cliff Kingsbury's case, he's just going to call mesh, which is a perfect play. Wait for it to develop. Trust his guys. Trust his line. Bang, hits him. Or just, we're going to find Zach Ertz in the end zone. Bang, he's right there underneath. Or they're going to be so disorganized at the back that they're going to get a first down. Bang, first down. On the too many men, right? And that was just inexcusable from Aaron Glenn and that Lions defense. But they're 3 of 4 on fourth downs, and they get the fourth down conversion off a penalty to the Lions. That's 4 possessions they were able to extend. They stole possessions like bunts in baseball. Do not give away outs. Do not give away possessions. You only get a finite amount of them. Even though it seems like I can get the ball back, whatever. No. We know kind of what the parameters are of an NFL game. If you've got a chance at 4th and 2, go for it. They added, and this is, if you're a math guy, you're excited about this. If you're not, I'm going to get through it quickly. They had a 25% win probability across those 5 plays. 25%. 25%. And in the regular season, they added 119%. So that's over the season. That's adding in all this. I'm not saying there was one game or whatever. No, it means they basically, I don't even know the conversion rate on this, but it sounds like they won a full game because they went for it on 4th down. And by the way, they won a full game tonight because they went for it on 4th down. I'm so lost in math right now. I can't even begin to tell you where I am right now. So that's the culture. Do you trust your guys to go do this? You practice this. You have good play callers. You have Jayden Daniels, who I thought it was really sloppy ball. Like Terry and Arnold just biting too much on that the rollout. I mean, it was unblocked. It could have been an open field tackle, whatever. Jayden Daniels, cool as a cucumber, just rolls out to his right and gets there. The confidence is required in your play caller, in your quarterback, and knowing the Lions aren't going to play that correctly is stunning. They've converted, via my buddy Austin Gale, 81% of 4th downs this year. Okay. I don't think that's the most all time because the Chiefs in Mahomes' first year, it was like 91% or something crazy like that. Anyway, listen, that's 14% better than the Eagles the year they wanted the tush push ban. So this tush push thing we thought was automatic, right? And it was actually, frankly, and my problem with the tush push is it seems so anticlimactic. Like when you're in a stadium, it just nobody even gets hyped up for it or anything. It's just like, oh, here's the tush push. Meanwhile, the Commanders, it seems like they're running a much lower percentage play, but they're actually converting at a much higher rate. That's incredible. That is incredible. And to not say anything, to go out there, just execute, that's Cliff, that's Jayden, that's the skill guys not dropping, and that's Zach Ertz being open and catching the ball. This is unbelievable. Dan Campbell knew this. That's why he did what he did last year. You have to score touchdowns. Field goals are failures. You have to score touchdowns in modern football. There's an unflappability there with Jayden Daniels that on 4th down is going to give them a massive advantage for the rest of their career. We're seeing greatness, and that's important here. We're seeing greatness. I'm going to get to Jayden Daniels here in a second, to like the topic. But we're seeing greatness, but then we're seeing greatness, and we're getting an infrastructure that is allowing him to be himself. That was my whole thing with Joe Burrow when he first got there, which was to Cincinnati, which was, I said, he wants to change the culture, and whatever was going on in Cincy that year, the second year as a starter, they let him change the culture. Not everybody would do that. Now, I don't know what's going on with the defense and the free agency and all that stuff. Maybe that's Warren's welcome. But Jayden Daniels is great, and his supporting cast, coaches included, his infrastructure, everybody around him, everybody in that building is helping him be greater. That's exactly what you want. Now, let me get to the topic at hand. So the winner, surprise winner, Jayden Daniels. There's a reason no one gives a crap about anything except quarterback in this league. It is the one thing that everybody, I don't know if you know, like the IQ charts, right? I'm talking about the meme where it's like the smart person and the stupid person say the same thing. And there's a middle brow people and they say, it's like, here's the thing. The dumbest people alive and the smartest people alive say quarterback is all that matters. In the middle, you have all these people saying, oh, no, you can do this. That's true, but it takes so many different things. Look at that game tonight. How close is your team to being able to compete with Jayden Daniels or Patrick Mahomes for that matter? How close is your team? Either they've got somebody who's similar to Jayden Daniels, they're trying to get somebody who's similar to Jayden Daniels in this year's draft, or they're trying to do everything perfect. They're trying to be like Jalen Hurts, a very good quarterback, but I'm saying, think about the Eagles and their defense and how many things needed to go right for them to improve this year. Like, you need so many pieces, or you can just have one guy who solves all your problems. This guy solved the problems of the Washington Commanders. The Commanders. Josh Harris bought the team, but you can't overnight. Like, Josh Harris did the best job in the world last year. He wasn't Daniel Snyder. But this year, he needed to take a step forward. And he hired Adam Peters, who's good. He hired Dan Quinn, who's much better than I thought and good. Cliff Kingsbury, much better than I thought, good. But the only reason they're here is that Jayden Daniels is as calm a rookie as I've ever seen. Now, the reasons for that are many, but I've gone into other pods. But how big is that gap between having a Jayden Daniels and not. That's the reason we have this. So it's the reason all we have this discourse around quarterbacks. It's all we talk about. It's all we talk about. On June 3rd, we're just ranking the quarterbacks. Why? Because it's all that matters. It's all that matters. In the modern game, it's a barrier for entry for everything. Only 7 times NFL history has a rookie quarterback won a playoff game on the road. Jayden Daniels is 2 of those 7. He would be the first rookie to get 3. Mark Sanchez, Joe Flacco both won 2. He carved up the blitz. 12 of 16 against the blitz, 191 yards, a touchdown. Second most passing yards against the blitz by a rookie since 2016, according to Next Gen Stats. It'd be very intrigued to know who was number 1. Thinking out loud, not sure. I mean, honestly, it could be CJ Stroud last year. But man, this is why we do it. This is why all we care about as a quarterback is because everybody is waiting around. There are, and I would include the Bears in this, 14 teams who are waiting around for Jayden Daniels. Tennessee's hoping it's Cam Ward. Maybe Cleveland's hoping it's Shedeur Sanders. I don't know how that's going to shake out. But this is what you pray for. This is what when you put your head on the pillow in your darkest moments of, we've lost 4 in a row or whatever, and it's cold and the season's over and the coach is going to get fired, you go, give me a Jayden Daniels. And Commanders fans get to go through this. They get the 2 greatest kind of shocks to the system you can get at once. They got a better owner and they got a franchise player who's going to change everything. Because you could say the same thing that, it's been a while, but, Stephen Cohen and Juan Soto, maybe. I don't know. I'm not a baseball guy. But it's that kind of experience where you go, oh, everything's going to change now. Oh, not to be flippant, but like your mental health changes. Like you're just a pep in your step. Oh, wow, my team's not a complete drag on me anymore. I'm not like, it's a real thing. Jayden Daniels is changing people's lives. That's 100% correct. Don't even argue with me, because if you know it, if you felt it, you know it. And if you haven't felt it, it means you're not even listening to this podcast because you don't feel sports at a deep spiritual level. Who's the loser here? The Lions franchise. And that literally, yes. But first of all, before I get into why they're a loser, I had some notes here in case they won early, obviously. But Brad Holmes drafted so many guys who run so hard and play so hard. And I don't think that's going away. It's going to be a next year thing. Ben Johnson, we saw what that was tonight, like the double toss, which by the way, I didn't know this. So we saw the double toss thing. That was, it appears, borrowed from a Steelers game in 2004. It was the first time that Ben Roethlisberger and Eli Manning played. And Antoine Randall was on that team. He's now the Lions receivers coach. So likely, I've not heard, but I still don't think they would ask him in a losing post-game presser. But likely Antoine Randall put that play in. I said that was funny. But here's my issue. This sucks for them because it wasn't supposed to be this way. They were supposed to be, if they were healthy, they would have gone to the Super Bowl. If they were healthy, I would have made the case that they were going to win the Super Bowl. If Aiden Hutchinson was there and Lee McNeil in the secondary, I would have made the case they're going to win the Super Bowl. I will probably always make that case, depending on what we see in the next couple of weeks. If the Chiefs are just, just throw a bunch of teams in the garbage can, maybe I won't make that. Maybe I won't make that case, but I think the Lions were the best team at their peak that I saw this year. And they didn't peak for long. I think I saw a stat, Aiden Hutchinson more sacks in a game against Tampa than anybody else did the whole year for the Lions. And Brady said it during the game. He said, the window closes every year. So what do we have here now? We have Ben Johnson probably leaving. We have Aaron Glenn probably leaving. You have a game that I think is going to be more frustrating for fans than maybe the casual thinks, right? Like the 4th and 2, too many men on the field penalty, like the sloppy play, the over pursuit, as I talked about on 4th down. How many plays did it seem like, oh, just get one hand in there? Oh, it would have been, the fumble with Jared Goff before the turnovers. The interceptions are one thing, like the fumble in the first half where they were driving down there. It's going to be a more frustrating, more haunting game than we think. But This is the second year in a row the Lions got close and couldn't get there. And I think there's this default feeling in sports that whatever's happening now is going to be true forever. I see it all the time, especially in college football. Oh, that team's never going to be good. Well, okay. Remember, remember that kind of mocking, oh, yeah, Texas is back, huh? Texas is back. Well, guess what? Texas is back. And the people who say those things don't even bring that up anymore, right? We just, eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. We take for granted that what is happening now is going to happen forever. And I think that the Lions having to replace two coordinators, a franchise as good as the Eagles couldn't do it 2 years ago. They missed on their coordinators. The entire season got torpedoed, and we thought Nick Sirianni was going to get fired. And if he hadn't impressed Lurie and Howie Roseman, he might have been. And we've seen that before. Andy Reid has hired bad assistants. It's just an X factor. Who knows how Jared Goff, who, by the way, played very poorly tonight, who knows what that looks like next year? I think Brad Holmes is still going to draft well. I think that they're still going to make strides as an organization. But the idea that, like, the NFC is getting harder. The NFC is going to get harder. The Niners will be healthier next year. The Eagles and that defense can take one more step forward. Jayden Daniels and the Commanders beat them tonight. They wouldn't have won if they were healthy or whatever. But let's not get into the hypotheticals. But Jayden Daniels taking a step forward. The Bears can't be bad forever. I'm just trying to see if you're paying attention. The Bears can be bad forever. The Packers might be good next year, better. We'll see what the Vikings. They're probably kind of in the same boat as the Lions, where they're going to maybe take a step back. We'll see, especially if they get a new rookie quarterback. And I'm a huge JJ McCarthy fan, but I'm just looking around the NFC and saying this was the year. Sports are cruel. They're unfair. They probably inflict more pain than they reasonably should, and they probably inflict more pain than they give you pleasure. And yet we're still extremely stupid about them, and we still are addicted to them. And I feel so bad for Lions fans because this was supposed to be the year. It all made sense. It's on the short list in the last 10 years of teams. It breaks my heart. By the way, I would put the Jets on that list from last year because that should have worked. It should have worked last year. But I don't want to do the Jets right now. I want to do Lions. This whole thing should have worked this year. They should have won the Super Bowl. They deserved a Super Bowl. They built the team the right way. They retained their assistants. They took a quarterback who nobody wanted, and they turned him into a guy who played like a top 10 quarterback for most of the season, who was worth the money. Amon-Ra St. Brown was just one of the best receivers in football. As I said, they drafted like 10 guys who run hard as hell, who are nightmarish to tackle. And on the defense, over the past 3 years, have gotten better every single year. But sometimes you lose double-digit guys on defense, and it just doesn't work. Life is not fair. Football is not fair. It breaks my heart. And I hope, if I can hope anything, it's the Lions are back sooner rather than later. I don't know if that's next year. I don't. But I do know if you keep drafting well and you keep making the right decisions, which they do both those things, good things happen. My sports prayers are with Detroit Lions. We'll see you tomorrow night.